Millionaire sees young woman handcuffed fleeing from a mountain lion in the wilderness. Comment telling me what you thought of this story. Give it a score from 0 to 10, and let me know what city you're watching from. I really want to know if you enjoyed my story, and I'd love to get to know you better, so subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on you. The roar didn't come from the mountain lion. It came from somewhere deep inside my chest when I looked through the helicopter window and saw, in the middle of the dense forest below, a human figure sprinting with her arms bound in front of her. And behind her, the silent, unhurried stride of a predator that knew she had nowhere to go. I'm not a hero. I never was. At 43, I built my wealth on patience, strategy, and a chronic anxiety that makes me second-guess every decision at least 3 times before I commit. But there's something in me, an old wound, a vow made in a hospital corridor years ago, that short-circuits whenever I see someone defenseless being cornered. In that moment, before reason could get a word in, I was already shouting at the pilot. Get down now. The helicopter lands in a narrow clearing, while the humid heat of the forest presses against my skin like a wet cloth. The still air smells of damp earth and pine resin. I climb out and find her behind a fallen trunk, breathing too fast, her wrists bruised purple from the handcuffs, her dark eyes fixed on me. But not with fear. With an unsettling detachment, as if she were calculating whether I was an ally or a new threat. The mountain lion, for reasons I don't understand in that moment, stops at the edge of the clearing, watches, and disappears into the brush. That is the first sign that she is not an ordinary victim. She doesn't say a word in the helicopter, not even when we arrive at my ranch, nestled into the slope of the Blue Ridge foothills, surrounded by pine trees and silence. Vanessa thanks me in as few words as possible, cleans her bruised wrists, and asks for only 2 things: a change of clothes and a phone charger. No explanations. I, who spend my life surrounded by people who always want something from me, find myself fascinated by exactly that. She wants nothing, or at least she makes a point of appearing that way. It's the following morning when the first crack appears. I run into Victor in the parking lot of the nearest town, a man of impeccable appearance, suit jacket in the heat of the foothills, voice too calm. Victor is talking with Anthony, the manager of the main hotel in the area, with the manner of someone who gives orders without raising his voice. Something about that scene doesn't sit right. I can't say what, but the image sticks in my head while I run errands, while I drive back, while I eat dinner in silence. When I casually mention the name Victor to Vanessa, she drops her glass. It shatters on the kitchen floor, and the silence that follows is louder than the breaking glass. She crouches down to pick up the pieces, with a composure that is clearly rehearsed. And I realize I've just pulled a thread that runs much deeper than I imagined. She still doesn't talk, but from that point on, I start paying attention to things I would have otherwise ignored. The days that follow are slow on the surface and frantic underneath. Vanessa begins opening small windows of herself to me, not because she trusts me, but because she has no choice. She had been an employee at a logistics company controlled by Victor, and discovered, almost by accident, that he was siphoning resources from vulnerable families in the region through fraudulent land lease contracts. When she brought the evidence to the legal director, Richard, an apparently upstanding man, it backfired. Richard was Victor's right-hand man. Within 24 hours, Vanessa was being hunted from inside her own company. The handcuffs were Victor's message that he could reach her anywhere. I hear all of this on a garden bench, in the shade of an oak tree, while crickets mark the end of the afternoon. And as she speaks, something clicks into place inside me with the weight of a stone that's been out of position for years. I've been through exactly this. Years ago, before I became who I am today, I was forced to sign documents that destroyed my father's business. Someone with power, with expensive suits, and a speech about necessary discipline decided that an entire family's life was just a chess piece. I survived, my father did not, and I swore quietly in a hospital corridor that I would never look away the next time. The past is not comfort. It's fuel, but Victor moves fast. Through Craig, a local attorney I knew only in passing, Victor finds out that Vanessa is at the ranch. The pressure starts subtly. A baseless legal injunction that temporarily freezes my company's assets, preventing me from hiring proper legal support. Victor's strategy is clear to anyone who recognizes the pattern. Don't confront directly, but squeeze until the other person breaks or makes a mistake. I make one. In a moment of desperation, I try to access the documents Vanessa saved on her own without telling her. Vanessa finds out. The trust we had carefully built over days nearly collapses in a single afternoon. She disappears from the ranch for hours, and I spend that time in a state of quiet panic. Not like a man who lost an asset, but like someone who realizes he has hurt a person who has already been hurt far too much. When she comes back, there's no speech, just her gaze, direct, and the question. Are you going to betray me too? I don't answer right away. I walk to the bedroom, open the dresser drawer, and lay on the table the same kind of document that destroyed my family. A copy I've kept for years as a reminder. Not out of bitterness, out of commitment. Vanessa looks at the paper for a long time. The alliance that forms after that is different, more solid, and more dangerous because Victor realizes we are moving together. Danny, a security guard hired by Victor to watch the area, begins appearing on the road leading to the ranch with a frequency that is no coincidence. Sophie, Vanessa's childhood friend, and the only person she still trusted in town, starts taking strangely long to reply to messages, as if she were being monitored or pressured. The tension builds layer by layer, like the humidity of the forest that never fully evaporates. It's when we finally put together a solid case file, using a connection I have with an investigative journalist, Ryan, who owes me an old step out of the quiet game. In an act of calculated cruelty, he invokes an obscure contractual clause to reclaim the only property I inherited from my father, a small plot of land where the old barn still stands. It's the only place I still cry. Victor knew that, and he used it. I receive the news standing on the porch, while the morning fog covers the valley. I don't shout. I don't break anything. I just stand there for longer than I should, and Vanessa, watching me from the window, understands that it was designed to break me from the inside. But Victor made a mistake. In the urgency of invoking the clause, he used an intermediary, Isabella, his administrative assistant, who didn't realize the paperwork had date inconsistencies. Ryan, upon receiving the case file, spots the flaw. The discrepancy, too small to be intentional, exposes the chain of forged signatures Victor had used for years. What was meant to be a weapon had become a gap in the armor. Night falls slowly over the foothills, and I sit beside Vanessa on the porch. The air is heavy. There is a taste of approaching rain on the tongue. Neither of us speaks, but I know, with a certainty that doesn't come from reason, that from here on things are going to change. I don't know if for better, I only know I will not back down. The legal process is slow, bureaucratic, and painful. There are hearings that end without a ruling, days when I have to sell company equipment to cover court costs, moments when Vanessa cries silently in the bathroom thinking I can't hear her, and I can. And I don't know what to do with a pain that isn't mine, but has already hurt me too. The first hearing falls on a Tuesday, under a gray sky. The courthouse is an old building downtown, with peeling walls and air conditioning that barely works. I sit beside Vanessa in one of the plastic corridor chairs, waiting to be called. Her hands are folded in her lap, fingers pressing into each other until they go white. I don't ask if she's afraid. The answer is already written on her wrists. When we walk into the room, Victor is already there. He doesn't look at us. He's seated with the perfect posture of a man who has never had to explain himself to anyone, leafing through a document with the same ease as someone reading a Sunday newspaper. Craig, his attorney, greets the judge with a familiarity that doesn't come from respect, but from how many times they've stood there together. My stomach tightens. The judge asks for the documents. We present the case file that Ryan helped organize, copies of the fraudulent contracts, records of suspicious transactions, testimonies from affected families. She examines each page with a slowness that makes me want to scream. Craig, on the other side, delivers a counter-argument so polished it seems to have been written weeks in advance, because it probably was. He cites procedural defects, lack of territorial jurisdiction, statutes of limitations. He throws technical terms like a loaded deck of cards. The judge postpones the ruling for lack of supplemental evidence. We leave in silence. Vanessa walks ahead, too fast, as if she wants to leave the building behind before it swallows her. I catch up to her only in the parking lot. She's standing next to the car, staring at a fixed point on the horizon, breathing deeply. "He's going to win," she says, and her voice comes out without any strength at all. "No, he won't." You saw the look on his attorney's face. He already knew what was going to happen. They all did, except us. I don't respond because I have no argument. I just open the car door and wait for her to get in. On the way back to the ranch, the silence weighs as much as the dampness of the hills. Vanessa looks out the window, and I know she isn't seeing the landscape. She's calculating how much time she has left before Victor gets what he wants, before she has to disappear again, before everything falls apart. When we arrive, she goes straight to her room and closes the door. I sit in the living room on the couch, the folder of documents open in my lap. I reread everything. I look for something that might have been overlooked, any gap, any mistake, anything. But there's nothing. Or if there is, I can't see it. Anxiety rises like acid in my throat, and for the first time in years, I catch myself wanting to call someone, anyone, just to not be alone with this weight. But I don't call, because there's no one to call. It's that same night that Sophie texts Vanessa. Vanessa shows me the phone with a trembling hand. The message is short. "I can't help you anymore. I'm sorry." Nothing more. No explanation, no context. Just that. And Vanessa knows exactly what it means. Victor got to Sophie, pressured her, threatened her. And Sophie, who was the last bridge Vanessa had to left behind, has just cut the rope. Vanessa sets the phone down on the table as if it burned her. "She was the only one," she says, her voice breaking. "The only one who still believed in me. I believe in you." She looks at me with an expression I can't decode. It isn't gratitude. It isn't relief. It's something darker, something close to pity. As if she already knows that believing isn't enough, that good people are crushed every day by people like Victor, and that good intentions don't stop a court order. But she doesn't say that out loud. She just turns around and walks to the porch. The days that follow are worse. Danny, Victor's security man, appears twice on the road leading to the ranch. He doesn't do anything. He just drives by slowly, watching, sending a message, making sure we know he knows where we are. Vanessa spots him from the window the second time and retreats into the house like a cornered animal. I lock the doors that night, not because I think it will matter, but because I need to do something, anything, to feel like I still have some control. I don't. The following week, I receive another court notice. This time, a portion of my personal assets is frozen, under the allegation that I may be concealing evidence. It's a lie. It's a maneuver. It's Victor using the system as a weapon. But it works, because now I can't pay the attorney I had retained. He calls me, polite but firm. Without payment, he cannot continue. I hang up and stand in the middle of the living room for too long. Vanessa notices. Of course she does. She's sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee that has already gone cold. And when she looks at me, I know she has already understood everything. He did it, she says. Not yet. Alan, stop, just stop. You don't have to do this. Do what? Sync with me. The words hang in the air, heavy as lead. I want to respond. I want to say I'm not sinking, that we still have a chance, that I won't give up. But the truth is, I'm not sure I believe that anymore. The truth is, I'm exhausted. The truth is, Victor is winning. But before I can say anything, Vanessa gets up, goes to the sink, washes the mug with mechanical calm, and leaves the kitchen without looking back. It's that same night that Ryan calls me. I've got something, he says without preamble. What? A date inconsistency in the documents Victor used to invoke the clause on your father's property. Isabella, his assistant, signed as a witness. But the date doesn't match the notary's record. 3-day difference, small, but it's a gap. I feel my heart accelerate. Is that enough? I don't know, but it's more than we had yesterday. I hang up and stand on the porch, looking at the hills disappearing into the dark. For the first time in days, I feel something that isn't despair. Not quite hope yet, but close enough. I go to Vanessa's door and knock. She opens it slowly, eyes swollen. Ryan found something, I say. She doesn't respond. She just grips the door handle a little harder. It might come to nothing, I continue, but it's a chance. Vanessa closes her eyes for a second that lasts too long. When she opens them, there are tears running down her face, but there's also something different in her expression. Something that was out and has now come back. Not hope, stubbornness, anger, the refusal to die quietly. Then we use it, she says. And for the first time since all of this began, I genuinely believe we might just make it. But that belief doesn't last long. Because the next morning, when I open the front door to get the paper, I find an envelope with no return address. Inside, a photograph of the front of my father's property. And on the back, written by hand, a single line, "You know what you're about to lose." I close the door slowly. I put the envelope away before Vanessa sees it, but my hands are trembling. The photograph stays in my desk drawer for 3 days. I don't show it to Vanessa. I don't talk to Ryan. I don't do anything. I just open the drawer every now and then, look at the image of the property, and close it again. As if ignoring the message could make it disappear. As if pretending I never received the threat could protect me from what comes next. But it can't. On the 4th day, I wake with the feeling that something has shifted. I can't explain it. Just a pressure in my chest. A weight in the air. I come downstairs to the kitchen and find Vanessa sitting at the table, phone in hand, her face paler than it should be. "What is it?" I ask. She turns the phone toward me without a word. It's a news piece, small, published on a local regional website. The headline reads, "Local businessman under investigation for alleged concealment of evidence in ongoing lawsuit." My name is there. My face too, in an old photo I don't even remember being taken. I read the whole thing. It's short, imprecise, but it carries enough poison. It insinuates I'm involved in a document fraud scheme, quotes anonymous sources, suggests my assets were frozen by court order due to serious suspicion. It doesn't mention Victor. It doesn't mention Vanessa, just me, as if I were the villain of the story. "He planted that," Vanessa says, her voice shaking with anger. "He wants people to think you're the problem." I set the phone down on the table. My mouth is dry, because I know she's right, and I also know this is just the beginning. Victor doesn't stop. He never stops. He squeezes until something breaks, until there's nothing left. I need to call Ryan. I say. It won't matter. I need to try. Ryan picks up on the third ring. I explain the situation. He goes quiet for too long. Alan, this changes things, he says finally. What do you mean? If the press starts associating you with fraud, anything we present in the case gets contaminated. They'll look at you as a suspect, not a victim. Victor knows that. He's burning your credibility before you can use the evidence against him. So what do I do? Ryan exhales on the other end of the line. I honestly don't know. I hang up and stand in the living room staring at the wall. Vanessa is on the couch, knees drawn up to her chest, arms wrapped around her legs. She looks smaller than she is. She looks too tired to keep fighting. We should give up, she says quietly. No. Alan, look at what he's doing to you. Look at what he'll keep doing. You don't deserve this. And you do? She doesn't answer. She just looks away. I sit beside her on the couch. I stay quiet for a moment. Then I speak, more to myself than to her. My father lost everything because of people like Victor. Lost the business, lost his health, lost the will to live. And I did nothing, because I was too young, too scared, because I thought someone else would fix it. Nobody did. And he died thinking he had failed. I am not letting that happen again. Not to you, not to me. Vanessa looks at me with her eyes full of tears. But what if we lose? Then we'd lose. But at least we tried. She wipes her face with the back of her hand and breathes in deeply. She doesn't say she agrees, but she doesn't say she's leaving either. That's enough. In the days that follow, the pressure keeps building. Danny shows up more often. Always the same time of day, always the same spot, as if he wants us to know we're being watched. Vanessa stops going outside. She stays in her room for hours, on her phone, reading and rereading old messages, looking for something or someone who might be able to help. I try to keep my routine, work, reply to emails, pretend everything is fine, but it isn't. The anxiety eats me from the inside. I wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, with the feeling that I've forgotten something important. Sometimes it's the photo of the property. Sometimes it's Victor's face in the courtroom. Sometimes it's just fear, shapeless, clinging to my chest like something alive. And then, 3 days before the second hearing, something changes. Vanessa comes down to the kitchen early in the morning and finds me having coffee. She's different, more grounded. There's a brightness in her eyes I haven't seen in days. Melissa reached out, she says. Who? Melissa, my co-worker. The one who went silent when everything started. I put down my cup. What did she say? That she wants to talk. In person. Today. My heart races. Does she have something? I don't know, but she said she saw things. Things that might help. We leave the ranch at 10 in the morning. Melissa had suggested a small coffee shop in the center of town, far from the places Victor frequents. When we arrive, she's already there, sitting at a corner table, hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She isn't drinking. She's too thin. Dark circles under her eyes. She looks like someone who hasn't slept properly in weeks. Vanessa sits across from her. I stay standing, leaning against the wall. Melissa looks at me with suspicion. He's trustworthy, Vanessa says. Melissa hesitates, but then breathes deeply and starts talking. I saw everything, she says, her voice low. That day, in Richard's office. Victor was there. He gave Richard direct orders to destroy your records, Vanessa. He said you were a problem, that you needed to disappear. You heard that? I heard it. I was just outside in the waiting room. The door was slightly open. I heard everything. And why didn't you say anything before? Melissa looks down. Because I was scared. Because Victor called me in the next day and made it very clear what would happen if I opened my mouth. He didn't threaten me directly. He didn't need to. He just said he knew where my mother lived, where my sister worked, and I understood. Vanessa takes Melissa's hand. But you're here now. I am. Because I can't keep living in fear. Because it's killing me inside. And because you didn't deserve to go through this alone. Melissa takes an envelope from her bag and sets it on the table. I wrote everything down. Every word I heard. Date, time, names. It's not much, but it's the truth. I pick up the envelope. I feel its weight in my hand as if it carries time, names. It's not much, but it's the truth. I pick up the envelope. I feel its weight in my hand as if it carries far more than it should. This could change everything, I say. Melissa shakes her head slowly. Or it could make things worse. Victor will know it was me, and he will come after me. We'll protect you, Vanessa says. No one can protect me from him. But even saying that, Melissa doesn't ask for the envelope back. We leave the coffee shop in silence. In the car, Vanessa holds the envelope with both hands, as if it was something sacred, or too fragile to break. She's risking everything for this, Vanessa says. I know. We can't waste it. We won't. But when I get home and open the envelope, read Melissa's account, and see the inconsistencies Ryan found in Victor's documents, I realize something. This isn't just a gap. It's a bomb, and if we detonate it wrong, it blows up in our faces. I call Ryan. I send him copies of everything. He reads in silence. This is strong, he says. Very strong. But we need to present it at the right moment. If Victor finds out before the hearing, he'll find a way to discredit Melissa. Or worse. So we present it at the hearing, without warning, without giving him time to react. It's risky. Everything is risky. Ryan goes quiet, then exhales. All right, we do it. But if it goes wrong, Alan, there's no coming back. I know. I hang up and look at Vanessa. She's on the porch looking out at the hills. The fog is coming down. It'll be dark soon. I sit beside her without saying anything, and we stay there, waiting for Judgment Day to arrive. The day of the hearing dawns with a clear sky. I wake early before sunrise. Vanessa is already awake too. I find her in the kitchen, dressed in blue, the color she mentioned once in passing that she wore when she needed to be brave. She holds a cup of coffee with both hands but doesn't drink. She just stares straight ahead, as if she's mentally rehearsing every second of what's coming. Ready? I ask. She looks at me and forces a smile that convinces neither of us. No. But let's go anyway. The drive to the courthouse is silent. I check the rearview mirror more times than I should, looking for Danny's car, but he doesn't appear. I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign. Maybe Victor no longer needs surveillance. Maybe he's already certain he's going to win. When we arrive, Ryan is already waiting on the courthouse steps. He has a folder under his arm and a tense expression on his face. Everything good? I ask. All set. Melissa confirmed she's coming to testify. She's scared, but she's coming. And the file? Right here. Date inconsistencies, Isabella's signatures, fraudulent contracts, all organized. If the judge accepts it as evidence, we have a real shot. We go inside. The hallway is crowded with people waiting for other hearings, attorneys speaking in low voices, nervous families sitting in plastic chairs. The air conditioning barely functions, and the humid heat clings to the skin. Victor arrives 10 minutes later, impeccable. Dark suit, understated tie, perfect posture. Craig walks beside him carrying a leather briefcase. They pass us without looking, as if we were invisible, as if they had already won. Vanessa grips my hand tight. When we're called, we enter the hearing room. The judge is already seated. It's the same one from before, a woman in her early 50s, gray hair pinned back in a bun, with the tired expression of someone who has seen too many people lie. Everyone settles in. Ryan opens the folder. Craig does the same. Victor sits with his usual composure, as if he's watching a film whose ending he already knows. The judge asks us to begin. Ryan rises. He presents the case file. He explains the date inconsistencies in the documents Victor used to invoke the clause on the property. He shows how Isabella's signatures don't match the notary's records. He speaks slowly, clearly, without rushing, every word chosen carefully. Craig listens to everything with an expression that never changes. When it's his turn, he stands and dismantles each argument with an ease that turns my stomach. He says, administrative errors are common, that dates can be corrected without undermining legal validity, that minor inconsistencies don't invalidate entire contracts. He speaks like someone reciting a rehearsed script. Because he probably rehearsed it, the judge takes notes. It's impossible to read what she's thinking. It's when Ryan requests to call Melissa that the temperature in the entire room shifts. Craig rises immediately. Your Honor, this witness was not previously listed. There is no basis to accept last-minute testimony without giving the defense adequate time to prepare. Ryan counters. The witness only agreed to testify recently for reasons of personal safety. Her testimony is essential to clarify conduct that constitutes document fraud and coercion. The judge considers this for a moment that feels like an eternity. I will allow the testimony, she says, finally. But the defense will have full rights to cross-examination. Craig sits, but his jaw is locked. Melissa enters the room. She's trembling. Her hands grip the strap of her bag as if it's the only thing keeping her upright. She takes the witness stand and looks at Vanessa. Vanessa gives a small nod. Just that, a small gesture, but it's enough. Ryan conducts the testimony carefully. Melissa tells everything. What she heard in Richard's office, the orders Victor gave, the veiled threat against her family. She speaks with a faltering voice, but she doesn't stop. She doesn't give up. And as she speaks, I see something in Victor's face I have never seen before, a crack, small, but it's there. When Ryan finishes, Craig rises for cross-examination. He is brutal. He questions every detail. He asks why Melissa waited so long to come forward. He implies she was pressured by Vanessa. He suggests the testimony is personal revenge. Melissa answers as best she can, but the pressure is too much. At one point, she starts to cry. The judge intervenes. Counselor, you've asked your questions. Let's conclude. Craig sits. Melissa is dismissed. She leaves the room without looking at anyone, her shoulders curved, as if she aged 10 years in half an hour. The judge asks for a few minutes to review the documents. The silence in the room is deafening. Vanessa is beside me, hands folded in her lap, breathing slowly. Ryan reviews his notes. Victor stares straight ahead, expressionless. When the judge speaks again, each word lands like a gavel strike. Having analyzed the body of evidence presented, the documentary inconsistencies raised by the plaintiff, combined with the witness testimony, which, while contested, presents sufficient elements of credibility, constitute adequate grounds to indicate contractual fraud and misappropriation. Accordingly, the court grants the annulment of the clause invoked against the plaintiff's inherited property, orders the precautionary freezing of assets belonging to the company controlled by the defendant pending full investigation, and orders the defendant, Victor Harmon, to make full restitution to the affected families, as documented in the attached exhibits. The company's operating licenses are suspended pending final ruling. Judgment entered. She brings the gavel down. The sound echoes. Victor doesn't move. He simply stares forward, face like stone. Craig puts the documents away in silence. There is no argument, no immediate appeal, just defeat, bare and undeniable, written across the body of a man who had spent his whole life winning. We leave the courthouse without speaking. Only when we reach the parking lot does Vanessa stop, lean against the car, and break down. It isn't grief. It's relief. It's exhaustion. It's everything she held back for weeks finally coming out at once. I put my arms around her and I stay there holding her while she shakes. "It's over," she says between sobs. "It's over. It's over," I repeat. But I know it isn't. Not completely. There will still be appeals. There will still be paperwork. There will still be nights when I wake up in a cold sweat, convinced I lost everything all over again. But the difference is that now I know it's possible to win, that it's possible to fight back, that it's possible to not look away. 3 weeks later, I received the official notification. My father's property has been restored by court order. I go there alone on the first morning. I push open the barn door slowly, as if I might wake someone. I stand in the doorway for a long time, just looking in. When Vanessa arrives half an hour later, because she simply came without being asked, I'm sitting on the wooden step, elbows on my knees. She sits beside me without saying anything. The silence between us this time has no weight at all. I look out at the hills in the distance. The fog is lifting. The sun is still low. There's a smell of wet earth and pine in the air. And for the first time in years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. "What are you going to do now?" Vanessa asks. "I don't know. Maybe fix this place up. Maybe leave it just as it is. And you." "I don't know either, but I know I'm done running." I look at her, and I can see she means it. We stay sitting there a while longer. No rush, no fear, just watching the day come.